I see dead people.
We all go a little mad sometimes. We get you. Here's Johnny.
It's all for you!
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Horror Hour, the place where we discuss, debate, and disagree on all things horror. My name is Yutaka. I'm one of the hosts. Hello. And unfortunately, I couldn't be joined by my co-host because, well, the Spencer trailer dropped, so George is a hot mess, and Ben will be a hot mess after we watch Midnight Mass. So you got me, but that's okay because I kind of wanted to redo my slasher review. The outcome will still be the same, but that first review, it was kind of jankety. I wasn't looking at the camera. I am now. And I kind of want to talk a little bit about spoilers because after this, I got to sit down with two very special people to this series. Ian Carpenter, who happens to be an executive producer, showrunner, and writer. And then Aaron Martin, who is also an executive producer, showrunner, writer, and creator of this series. And it was a huge honor and a true delight, but we talk spoilers right off the bat. So I kind of want to lead you into that. All right. So let's kind of go back. Let's rehash what I loved about this series for why you should be watching this series. It's a Shudder original series. I love Shudder. All right, let's go back over the reasons why I enjoyed this series. The cast. This show would be nothing without two things: the writing and the cast. This cast really sells it. And for the ones you love to hate, you hate them. That's right. I'm talking about you, Afra. Ooh, little beast. Ooh. But we'll talk about Afra in a moment. As for the rest of the cast, they're hot. I love them all. And David Cronenberg, that's another reason. That is really awesome. He's a legend. He's an icon. Yeah, it's pretty cool to see him actually in this. And he really sells it as the really awful father. He's the patriarch of this family who, sadly, I wouldn't say sadly because of his character, but he has cancer and he decides he wants to tap out early. So in order for the Galloway legacy to live on, he's going to hold another competition. Yeah. Well, there can only be one winner. And well, much like Highlander, actually, now I think about it, most everyone's going to die. Which leads me to my next one. Oh my gosh, the gore. There is so much gore. And they do a really great job. I mean, oh my God. The practical effects are some of the best. And I love and appreciate that. And I think they have an incredible attention to detail. So trust me, when people are getting cut in half, you're going to see some spillage of the guts. And it is incredible. It's all fake, obviously, but I do love seeing that in a good horror series or movie. Love it. Another reason, diversity. I think it's very important that we have diverse characters, and something about just the slasher series in general is they've always been inclusive, always had an LGBTQIA plus character, and it's never felt as kind of tokenism. It felt like they were part of the story. It felt that they were real characters that were fleshed out and brought something to the story. They weren't just someone to be a body count. They may have become a body count later on, but they weren't there for that. And I really, for me, I appreciate seeing that. And as I stated, the final reason, which I'm going to circle back to our first one, the writing. This story is just so good. I love a good murder mystery. You can't have a good slasher without a good murder mystery. You can't. I mean, I guess you could. I'm not. No, yeah, there. I still really feel like that. Yeah, yeah. I'm still looking at that camera, trying. But yes, no, the murder mystery in this was really great. Um, you've got all these characters and you've got 8 hours of television, and they managed to keep you engaged. They kept me engaged the entire time. You've got deaths sprinkled throughout, but then you've got this rich backstory to where you see that a lot of these individuals have a shady backstory. And some are, turns out, not the best at all. Um, you know, yeah, I'm still thinking about Afra. All right, let's talk spoilers. I'm not going to go into tons of spoiler details. I'm just going to kind of give you the gist, because as you go into that interview, I just want you to be kind of warmed up before we really just talk about it all. And also because I really want you to go watch this show before even watching the rest of this and before watching that. Just know I love this series. I love this season. I think it was fantastic. I continually enjoy how they keep the series fresh. They up themselves each time, and the Gore, the cast, just really go watch this. If not for watching one of the most, spoiler, just so you know. There is a character in this season that is probably the most vile, and I was happy to see their demise. And their name is Afra. This little beast. Just, I mean, I was so happy to see her demise at the hands of the killer, who is Dr. Trin, by the way. I know, I was so shocked. I was not expecting that. And again, that's partially why I really love this. I love to be caught off guard. So that was great. But Afra ends up chewing off her adopted mom's face, to where she doesn't kill her, by the way. She just chews off her face, messes her ass up, leaves Christy, her adopted mom, who's also married to a gay man, although she doesn't know, so she might not be the smartest. Okay, but she was actually still one of my favorite characters. She gets the family to, go all old Yeller on her. I mean, they don't take her out back, but that was a crazy scene. Really crazy. Also, Jaden, that poor boy, his death scene is probably one of the best. I mean, he's quartered. And did he deserve it? No, not at all. I think he was a poor businessman, but he didn't deserve that. He just didn't. And lastly, the other innocent bystander, I would say, would be, well, O'Keefe. They were just a kind and gentle character that I really loved. I think they helped balance out the craziness of the rest of the family, because, I mean, even the characters I thought were kind of innocent, like Brigitte, turns out they weren't. I mean, Brigitte literally kidnapped a kid. You would think that Florence would be the most hated character for me. But the comedic value that she added and her one-liners, I mean, my gosh, the fact that she shoots somebody point blank in the face just to get them back because they bit off her finger, and she's like, an eye for a finger, and then just cackles. I lost it. I was like, I can't hate you, even though you're a horrible, horrible person. I can't. Really, it was it's really good. Her demise is also equally as satisfying. So yeah, that's my review. Gave you a little bit of spoilers, kind of to get you amped up, and a little bit of warning, because again, I just told you who the killer is. That's like my first question to these guys. So I also let you know the character I hated the most, Afra. But it's okay. Her death was very satisfying. Very, like, I was happy to see her go. And I can't rave about this show enough, because I think the pacing was spot on. I don't think it was rushed. I felt the characters were developed. And furthermore, I just love a good murder mystery. And if you're going to give me over the top gore and kills, yes, please. And on top of that, they do a great job of creating this just creepy atmosphere. And can we talk about Homeboy's mask or Homegirl's mask? Creepy. And I really enjoyed it. And it was just so fitting. Ah, really, go watch this show, please. I need another season pronto. And stick around, or if you fast forward to it, that's okay too. Watch this interview, because this interview is fun. So yeah, again, like I said, my review wasn't going to change. It was kind of a jankety one, because I was like sleepy and like, okay, I can't look at the camera, I'm too nervous, oh god. So now hopefully I did a better job. Yeah, I can't act. Oh, that was all nerves. This is still nerves, but hopefully it's a little bit better. All right. Thanks everyone for watching. I hope you enjoy my zaniness. I'd like to think I'm like, gosh, I'd like to be like Seamus, because he's really hot, but I'm probably more like Florence, because, you know, delusion sets in. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye. Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Horror Hour, the place where we discuss, debate, and disagree on all things horror. My name's Yutaka. I'm one of the hosts. Unfortunately, George and Ben couldn't be here. They didn't last the past round of the competition. So that's all right. But today I've got the creator of Slasher Flesh and Blood, Aaron Martin, and then the showrunner, executive producer, and writer, Ian Carpenter. So hello, guys, and thank you.
And Aaron, just so you know, Aaron is also an executive producer and a writer on the show as well.
Never an actor, though.
Fair enough. Again, this is a Shudder original, and for those listening, again, hopefully you watched the review before this, but we're just going to go straight into spoilers. And so the first thing I want to go discuss is, did you always know that Dr. Trin was going to be the killer, or were there discussions surrounding possibly other characters maybe ending up being the killer?
No, it was always Dr. Trin. She was always going to be a tool of Spencer, of David Cronenberg's character. He hired her to do his dirty deeds. I don't think, though, that he hired her knowing that she would go quite as far as she did, because she is a bit of a psychopath and enjoys
I quite liked her a lot. And I actually, before this, rewatched all of it again, just so I could remember certain parts. And I did like that reveal. And you could just, the glee in her face as she's revealing everything. Well, then I guess to follow up with that, then, since she, was incredibly crazy, but did you guys then have, considering this family, a most satisfying kill, somebody you were happy to see that they were offed?
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
You go, Ian.
Okay, well, probably, it's interesting. I mean, I have favorite kills, and that would probably be Jaden or Vincent. I mean, those two kills for me are incredible. But as for like a character that I'm like, oh, I want you out of here, the way some people were talking about Sabrina, not Sabrina, sorry, Florence, not the actress. For me, it would be Theo. Like he seals the deal in the bedroom, and by seals the deal, I mean seals his fate when he starts talking.
Oh yeah.
Drove me nuts. And then Aaron, you need to love all your characters very much, even the villains. And Aaron, as we were creating this season and writing it, he kept saying to me, I get notes from him or comments. He'd just be like, you have to stop hating Theo so much. And Theo just encapsulated a sort of wishy-washy, righteous, proselytizing, better than everyone POV that clearly was later revealed had several holes in it, and it just drove me crazy. And I wanted him gone, and definitely enjoyed when we got to that part of it all.
My favorite is Christy, because every season I like doing something horrible to Paula Brancati. And Paula and I've worked together for like way before this on other projects, so it's always fun to tell her, oh, this is how you're going to die this year. And when we told her your face is going to get eaten off, I think she screamed in like excitement.
She was the one character I felt she was the most genuine, that I was just really bummed that she was off. I'll be honest, I wanted Afra gone after. I was just like, oh my God, that little beast, I'm done. And I was very happy with her demise. I know that's terrible, but I thought that was I was very suspicious, but I liked that reveal. But I just felt so bad for Christy. Oh.
It's so funny, eh? Like you just the delight with which you talk about, having Afra gone, and you think about the craziness of her kill, just how we build that up. When we're watching these things, we create these things, just that deep desire for the thing that we can't do in our real lives. You're just like, yes, like I need this to take a long time, and for it to be horrible. I mean, the way people were talking about what they wanted to have happen to Florence, and that was it too. They were like, it needs to be long. She needs to suffer. She needs to pay for everything that she did. Amazing.
She was such. I loved her character, and I mean, I loved the hater, but Sabrina, the actress, she was incredible with. I felt she took it over the top in the best way, and I mean, both her and Theo they were delusional in their own right, but she was just out there, and I kind of did feel a little bit bad. I'm like, Afra is, the one time I'm like, okay, cool, I'm with that, go to town on that, and then just leaves her. I'm like, oh, ooh. But of course, then she gets that kill, and I was also still pretty happy about that. Yeah. I will say, if there's one thing I really have loved about just the slasher series in general, is how over the top as well you all go with gore. It is, and its practical effects, which I feel sometimes in horror we're kind of moving away from. And so I love that you guys did that. And speaking of that, having David Cronenberg in the cast, did you guys get tips from him? I mean, just thinking about some of the movies that he's done, that he's made, and just.
No, I mean, I'll answer this because I was on set with him. I would say the only thing in that direction that we possibly got was just his, very clear affirmation that, I'm putting words in his mouth, but goodness is here. That there are good things are here, good stories are here. He approves wholeheartedly of that kind of storytelling. I mean, I checked in with him when he finally saw all the edits, and I wish I could quote his summary, but part of it was, and terrible things happened to people, and what's not to like, he said, and so no, but I think we all felt it on set that, of course, him signing on to do it is a huge vote of confidence in the material that we were about to shoot, his unflagging commitment to the show after it was done. Like, his interviews, he speaks so positively about the whole thing. It definitely, you feel like if you're a scrappy little horror show, you're like, oh, a master is knighting us, if you will, or something like that. So that's just an amazing feeling for all of us.
Yeah, and in terms of like the practical and how much time we put into the kills, even in season 1, when we were figuring out how to do this, because nobody that worked on this show, except for the director in season 1, Craig David Wallace, had ever worked in horror before, and so it was like, how do you kill people? And so Adam Haight, who's one of the producers at Shaftesbury, said if this was a dance show, we would be spending all of our time and money on the dance sequences. We need to think of the kills that way, like the kill show. So we have to make sure that we put the time and effort into making those as amazing as possible.
I think you guys did a great job. And honestly, again, I love the entire series and just the progression it's made. And one of the things that I also like about Slasher is the fact that I love a good murder mystery. I just really, and you guys really, you drop clues, crumbs, and I will have to say I didn't see this ending coming. I loved the surprise. So when you go into that, though, is that kind of, do you pull from other, I guess when I saw this and after I watched it, I thought, gosh, this reminds me of like 10 Little Indians. And I'm just wondering, when, with all your seasons, have you just pulled from inspirations from other, I guess, big mysteries, or to create your own?
Yeah, I mean, when I wrote this, like the very first episode of Slasher, the very first pilot, on spec, because I wanted to break out of the writing I had done. And when I pitched it around it before it got picked up, I was saying it's a slasher show, but it's also an Agatha Christie novel. So like, I love Agatha Christie, and I've read every one of her books. I don't know if I definitely haven't consciously taken anything from them, but subconsciously, that kind of murder mystery runs through me. And yeah, like if it was a slasher movie, you have 90 minutes to do a bunch of kills. We have 8 hours to stretch out, 1 or 2 kills every hour. And the only way you're going to do that and have people be engaged is if you add something more to it, which is a murder mystery, or the character stuff between the people, or the mystery, even the other weird mysteries, like what is Afra's deal, that we stretch out across the season so that people are engaged on multiple levels of what the show is. So we deliver the crazy, horrible kills because they're fun and they're exciting and they're the promise of the premise, but we also have this other underlying structure to the whole series.
Agreed. I think you kept it very engaging. I'm very thankful for Shudder in terms of when we got the screeners and they gave us the first 6. I'm like, I need to finish the rest now. I was like, and I think it was a couple more weeks before we even got those. And I really enjoyed what you did. And I also, I loved the set piece. That mansion, all those corridors, and the way you all played with just some of the, I guess, the hidden passageways, and it just made me think of Clue. But I'm trying to get to where
you want me to see a question out of that? Because I feel like you were talking about like sort of our references and things like that, and that gets really interesting when you're creating this kind of stuff, because of course people have brought up Ready or Not, they've brought up Knives Out and all that kind of stuff, and so I think some people wonder, oh, did we see those things and go, ooh, let's do ours or something like that? But it starts like this project, this season started with Aaron coming back from some family holidays and talking about the pressure created in all of that. You start to roll down a road where we're like, oh, let's do a thing, let's trap a family and all of this. Then you start to think, oh yeah, they did that in Knives Out, they did that in Ready or Not, and just sort of you then look at those things, and I really enjoyed Ready or Not in particular, and look at them and go, oh, are we? Yes, we're okay. We're different enough from this thing. We don't want to copy them. We know genre, alludes to everything that came before very comfortably and enjoys that. So we do that. There's shots and references all through the season that allude to things that we loved and all that, and we hope that we bring something new and different to it. And I think, just to take it back to what you were talking about with the sets, you know, one of our big references was the films of Douglas Sirk, his films in the 50s, all these sort of melodramas. So that informed our color palette, which we were very excited about because we felt like we weren't seeing that in horror. And it also affected how our great production designer, Brian Garvey, designed the look of the entire show. All those, you know, that big, gorgeous room, the kind of colors that we were seeing in there, the kind of furniture we were chasing, and even just like that feeling of like being a little out of time or frozen in time. Like I feel like the when of this, and people have worked it out exactly, but I feel like when you're watching it, sometimes the when of this is just a little indistinct, you know? You're like, because the family kind of dresses, those are contemporary clothes, but you know, we're lucky that the kind of 50s is starting to hit fashion, so it all sort of worked that way.
Yeah, and even like I even think about the scene between Merle and Merle and Grace at the very start of the first episode, where she's feeding him a sandwich and they're talking in that ridiculous way to each other. That was us just, I mean, there's so many scenes in Douglas Sirk movies where people talk like that, and it was just us having fun with, you know, that. I guess it's its own genre, or its own style. Yeah,
and bringing in, you know, and then that scene especially too. You think about that scene, if you play it back, the music, our great composer who's been in all the seasons, Sean Pierce. You know, we were like, okay, we're doing Douglas Sirk. We want strings, we want orchestral. Let's lean into the melodrama of it. And so you can see it in some of those moments there, all these strings that come charging in, some of the stuff that happens around Seamus and Christy, and, you know, some of those big emotional discussions, and they have those like, just, you know, walls of strings coming in and all that. So yeah, I mean, it feels like it's good that our references are coming, the visual reference is coming outside of horror. To sort of shift it up a bit.
And another thing, because you're now in your 4th season, and it's still, I feel like you guys, and I think you just kind of answered what my next question is, what do you guys keep doing to make it fresh, engaging? And I love that also it's I mean, I love slasher films through and through. And so I love to see something that's, to me, an original IP. And you guys have changed up the story each time, and you've brought in cast members. Obviously, I guess, would this be considered an anthology series? I mean, I think that's really great. And I think when shows maybe go on too long, they get stale. But I'm just, again, I think you just answered what I was going to state is what are you guys doing? And it's those little details that I think are really impressive. I guess
we're very lucky, you know, with what you're talking about there. We're really lucky that you don't hit that staleness. Like I've been on many shows, you know, one of which I was on with Aaron, where you sit there and you go, oh, this amazing thing that set up the first season, by the 4th could become a curse. You know, you're like, oh, we don't want to do item X that's in the thing. We feel like we've burned it out or something like that. So you're so lucky here to do that. And also just have that wave of returning cast, some new people to spark it all up, a whole new world. Like it's kind of the best. I'd say the only downside I see is you kill characters you love, right? So it's a hard thing where you sit there. I really felt that in season 3, where I went, oh, like we're never going to get to write or see some of the people I really love here again. It's a bummer.
It is, but I think one of the, I guess in terms of as a viewer, one of the best things is that you care for these characters. So I mean, if you're just watching something and somebody gets off, you're like, okay. But to have that emotion, and that's what you guys, like I said, Christy, that broke my heart. I think she was probably the only one true, you know, genuine, nice person there.
O'Keefe.
Maybe O'Keefe, and then Brigitte also. I really feel, which actually, then I'll segue to what I really truly appreciate. Just representation matters, and I feel that you guys have always really I don't feel that you had queer characters just to have them. They feel natural. It feels part of the story, and it just feels it's welcoming, and I love to see that. And I don't feel that you guys, kill them off right away, that bury your gaze trope. And with O'Keefe, what I loved is that you guys also then respected pronouns. And I think that's important. And I just want to say from that, I thank you. But I really enjoyed having this just range of characters. And yeah, O'Keefe was another one because they were innocent bystander. And I was just, no, but again, it helped propel my hate for Florence more.
Yeah, I mean, like the representations, mattered to both of us for even before Slasher. Like, I mean, my first job was on Degrassi, so I brought in the Marco for one of the first gay teen relationships on TV. So I've been doing this for 20 years, putting my fellow gay people on screen, and it's fun to. I'm also very a firm believer in equality, being that if you're on a slasher show and you're a LGBTQ plus character, you're just as likely to be killed as anybody, because if you protect those characters, then it's another form of inequality.
Mm-hmm.
On this kind of show, not on other shows.
No, and that makes perfect sense. And I like the way that you've worded that, because then it again, it makes it feel that they're just again, it just flows with the story. They're the characters are just integral, and it's just not, hey, I'm queer to be queer. You may find out that they are, or I really liked that. And that's just something we don't, even though I think horror is probably one of the most queer genres, we don't get to see that as much. And so you guys doing that consistently is just very it's just really nice to see. But it also helps that I think your actors and actresses have been phenomenal. I really enjoy the cast that you reuse and the new ones. I think I would like to know then, speaking of your cast, were they, with some of those practical effects and just seeing what you were doing to some of these characters, were any of them just kind of caught off guard of like, ooh?
Oh yeah, yeah. They look like the kill days can be really really somber. And the one that I really noticed was Jaden. And Jaden was, do I have this right? Now Jaden wasn't the first kill that we shot, but he was the first kill that we shot where after that night we were not going to see the actor again. And so the group the cast had become very tight. There was a lot of group scenes. It was the first shoot for most people during COVID, and for most of the crew as well. So it was a really tight, special bond. So you were killing him that night and saying goodbye to the actor. And there was many more weeks of shooting. So it just made it bigger and harder. And then when that stuff comes in, it's anatomically so exact. I mean, there's a medical advisor that's making sure these things, look right and all that. And people are affected and struck by it, and there were scenes this season where actors had to take a minute because they were sort of so almost outside of their character, moved by what the moment was happening. I particularly remember that around O'Keefe. And and you think about the basicness of those of the effect on their face, again accurate. So they're not looking at something really crazy, but it's just it's just people just really moved by it. So yeah, it really it affects everyone. It affects the crew too. You see it come out. People are like, oh man, you just know what it means,
Well, sometimes it's also really fun.
Oh, yeah. Like when we're dealing with, well, you said we'd probably say anything here, when we're dealing with shit, and things like that. Like I think this season.
So I wasn't sure, but so you guys were filming, or this was the first coming back from, I guess, COVID, or were you filming during it?
During it.
Yeah.
So we shot in October of 2020, and there were a couple of other shows that had shot in Canada. And I would say, so there were I'd say a couple shows had shot maybe 3 or 4 weeks before us, or something like that. So
my other show, I have another show called Another Life, and we started shooting back in September. So we started in March, went down, and then started back in September in Vancouver. But yeah, and it was a whole new world, right?
Mhm.
It's shooting during COVID takes away a lot of the fun of filming and being on set.
I was actually kind of curious how that, you know, just with everything in terms of, I feel like maybe with your crew and how close they're probably getting with the cast, like how did that change just in terms of, did it alter the story any, or did it at least still, did it prolong filming? Or I was just kind of curious then, like your difficulties. And I mean, clearly I can't tell any. I feel like you guys, again, you turned out a solid project. But that's very fascinating in that you filmed during COVID.
Yeah, I mean, story-wise, I think, Ian, you and I, there were maybe some kissing scenes and stuff that we might have pulled out just because we didn't want them. We didn't. I mean,
Sure.
we were lucky in the fact that Liv and Theo, the actors, are married in real life, so they were already in their bubble and they could do whatever without any worry about that. But in terms of Ian, you were there on set, like it was rigorous testing, I think, right? That kept you.
Yeah, it was rigorous. Yeah, there's the daily, all stuff that is normal now for most of us, that back then was the first of everything for most people there. So the actors getting tested at least twice a week, everyone getting med checks when they came in, and all of that. And you were extra conscious of, sort of like you're saying, it's like, there were productions shooting in Montreal that would two people could get intimate for a total of 15 minutes in the week. And there were people there with stopwatches going, okay, you've had, and intimate doesn't just have to be kissing. It was really, really close. And
wow.
So I was conscious of that stuff happening and going, oh man, is that going to come here? But we were all conscious of it because we're a show where people are screaming in each other's faces. And yes, maybe kissing and stuff like that, but like, shaking each other and yelling or stabbing and all that kind of stuff, and yelling, all the things that you don't want to do. So there was a real awareness of that, that helped motivate all the very careful testing and everything like that. But it almost brought I don't know how it was for the actors, but for me, there was an extra vulnerability in those moments, and like right before them, like say, Merle and Grace, there was the like, as written, fingers in the mouth. Well, that was our first day. That felt, and it's just, it's a finger, but that felt crazy. You're at a time where everyone is washing their hands, like, and of course everything was cleaned and all that kind of stuff, but it's like, okay, I'm going to put my fingers in your mouth now, and so it brings something to it. Can you see it somewhere? I'm not sure. Like,
I couldn't, I mean, I wouldn't say that you can tell in productions, but you certainly, I don't know, you hear stories of other productions shutting down, but it's nice to hear, because I'll say in my day job, I work behind the scenes, but I work in healthcare. And so it's nice to hear that you all were taking precautions and, just really taking the considerations of the cast, the crew, and I think that's wonderful. And I'm still happy that you were still able to make this. And again, I would say I'm bummed that it's not on a major network here, but I feel like it wouldn't be as enjoyable, because I think Shudder really does a great job of just propping you guys up. Yeah. And I think it's like the perfect place for you all, at least here for me, because I mean, it's nice to have, like, there are shows on TV that are horror shows or even in another streaming service, but this, to me, you guys were true horror. And sometimes you get camp, but like, all the actors just like go 100%. And so
yes.
What is it like, I guess, working with Shudder? Is this your first time working with them, or?
Yeah, I mean they've been incredible. Like I mean, as much as we love horror, Ian and I, the people at Shudder are like walking encyclopedias of horror. And they're just such a great resource. And they, I mean, aside from all that, they're so supportive of what we want to do with the show. They obviously they love our kills because that's kind of our signature, but they were also very much supporting all the other stuff that we bring to the show as well. The murder mystery, the representation, everything like that is what they want, which is amazing.
I feel like I've never worked with a network that knows its audience better. Like, there were times where they would talk about the mystery, and then that's been a discovery for me too, is just how deeply the Shudder audience is picking apart the mystery and all that with a level of attention I've never seen on another network. And so they would be calling that out. They're like, oh, we think the audience will clue into that like sooner. And
Oh, wow.
and, yeah, they're like they know, yeah, because they are the audience. It's an amazing relationship.
Yeah, well then, because I know we went a little over, so I do apologize. I just have 2 questions left then. And not sure if you can tell me, but are there plans or at least an idea of what you would do if there was another season?
Well,
if you're able to.
Ian and I are always talking about, because it's a standalone show, like that we can come up with a new version every year. We've been floating ideas with each other since we were shooting this season. So we've got a bunch of ideas in our back pocket. There's nothing official yet, but you know, we have various ways of maybe doing it again. Ian?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to say it.
I mean, that's awesome to hear. It's, again, I would.
No, that's not to suggest.
No, of course.
No,
Yeah, I think
we have things we want to do desperately. Yeah.
I hope we get to see another season. And again, kudos to you guys. Really, this is just such a fun. It's just true horror, and I love it. It's got the scary elements. It's got honestly also the dramatic scenes. Liv's final monologue. Whew.
Yeah.
Followed by that kill. I was like, you guys, that got my heart rate up a little on that one. And then obviously Florence, I loved that comedic aspect, even though I don't think the character herself looks at herself as a comedy, but I was like, that's amazing. And again, in this society, who doesn't want to see pretty rich people get knocked off one by one? That's, you know, I enjoyed that. And so my final question then is, we always have to ask, what is your favorite scary movie?
You go ahead, Ian.
Okay, mine is Dario Argento's Opera, which actually wow, big reaction.
That's a good one. No,
I just rewatched it because I was like, I've been answering this a bit, and I was like, I haven't seen that. I mean, the last time I saw it was in a theater, and I think anyway. Oh my God, I love that movie. It's so big. It's so over the top. It's so operatic to be obvious. The camera work in it is incredible. Like, it's just so felt and clever and manipulative. I love that movie. It's so special.
I love Dario Argento. Yeah. So yeah, I was just like, when I hear people's responses, sometimes they may be, okay, yeah, I kind of expected that. So I didn't expect that, and I loved hearing that. So
mine's not as artsy. I love The Strangers, the one with Scott Speedman.
Ooh, that's a good one too. That was definitely all about the tension and the slow burn, and
yeah, because it's actually not gore. I mean, there's a bit of gore in it, but it's even the final actions is pretty much off camera.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, with horror, you don't necessarily have to show gore or anything. It's just that moment of, terrorizing either your audience, scaring them. And I think The Strangers, I look at it, gosh, if I were in rural Missouri and in that situation, nope, I mean, I always, when I go to places like that, I have to check to make sure I've got my 5G cell service because I do not want to be stuck in some type of situation like that.
Oh yeah. I feel that driving down the highways and you just look at a house that's lit up, you go by and go, oh, there's stuff happening in there for sure.
Well, I really appreciate you guys coming on, chatting with me about Slasher. I just, again, wish the best for you guys and to the audience. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed, and goodbye.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you. You guys were, thank you so much. This means a lot to me. So
Yeah. Oh, I totally enjoyed doing it.
Yeah.
See you later.
see you guys.